1,000 years ago, England was probably the wealthiest and most well-governed kingdom in Western Europe. Silver was a sign of England's wealth, and with such resources, England was one of the greatest prizes in northwest Europe. The English were ruled by Anglo-Saxon kings, and the latest in the line was Edward the Confessor. Sadly, Edward was childless. So in 1051, Edward made William, Duke of Normandy, his heir. William was a distant cousin to Edward. But this decision provoked powerful local opposition, especially from Earl Godwin, the leading English noble, and his son, Earl Harold. "15 years later, Edward died, and Harold Godwinson seized the throne. Harold was soon called upon to defend his realm, first against the Norwegians, whom he decisively defeated near York. His exhausted army then marched south to face the threat from William of Normandy. William of Normandy reached the south coast of England in September and landed in Pevensey. The two armies met at Hastings, and with a charge of the Norman cavalry, battle was joined. The air filled with arrows, and the English soldiers, who were all on foot, protected themselves with a wall of shields. The Normans attacked from all sides. At the height of the battle, Harold was killed. The battle was over. The victorious Normans chased the remaining English from the battlefield. This is the most momentous military event of English history, and it resulted eventually in the large-scale destruction of the English aristocracy, the imposition of an alien nobility, and the reordering of society along Norman feudal lines. It is said that William was the most able monarch ever to rule England. Following his victory at Hastings, he came to dominate the politics of northwest Europe for the next 2 decades. William was crowned on Christmas Day 1066. His new office brought him great wealth and power. In 20 years, the lands of over 4,000 English lords passed to fewer than 200 Norman and French barons. The English were removed from senior government and church offices. Despite the sophisticated administrative structures that he inherited, ultimately William relied on force to dominate his kingdom, and he built castles across the land. The conquest was most brutal in the north of England. People in Northumbria and York launched a series of rebellions shortly after the Normans took power. William showed no mercy in crushing them. His campaigns came to be known as the Harrying of the North. The scale of the destruction was astonishing. The Normans introduced the feudal system, placing the king at the top, and all land belonged to him. He granted land to tenants partly as a reward for helping him to conquer the kingdom, or a way to maintain loyalty, or to secure certain difficult geographical areas. In return, he received loyalty and service from his tenants. All those granted land, including churchmen, owed the king military service. The gradual and sometimes violent dispossession of the Anglo-Saxons from their lands by their Norman conquerors over the 20 years of William's reign led inevitably to a certain amount of confusion. William decided he needed a detailed statement of lands held by the king and by his tenants, and of the resources which went with those lands. It should record which manors rightfully belong to which estates, and it would also provide the basis for reviewing the taxation system. The compilation of such detailed information, however, required a survey wholly unprecedented in its scope and precision. The fact that the scheme was executed and brought almost to complete fruition within 2 years is a tribute to the political power and formidable will of William the Conqueror. And so the Domesday survey began. Roadwich Hundred stretched from Hinton in the west to Walhampton in the east, and from Wootton in the north to Barton in the south. It contained 22 different estates or manors, all in the gift of the king. William appointed tenants-in-chief to the manors, and 4/5 of the value of Roadwich Hundred went into Norman hands. He gave the most valuable manor to one of his boyhood companions. Importantly, William created the New Forest, and a quarter of Roadwich came under forest law. This worked to the advantage of those local Anglo-Saxons with experience of hunting. In particular, Aelfric Small was granted 5 manors in Roadwich. Find out how the Domesday survey recorded King William's treatment of Milford and the neighbouring manors. Watch our feature-length video podcast, Domesday in Melford.